but moving the ball, getting first downs, keeping the defense off the field, I think is really important. And then again, stopping the run on early downs if they do that, because the Bills are pretty doggone pass happy, excuse me. Stopping their run and getting, Josh Allen in some third and long situations. Fans, welcome into the NYJ Today post-game show. Oh my gosh, what a time we all sort of had this afternoon. James, you look stunning. We're gonna discuss that. We're gonna discuss that throughout the night because I do like that mustache. And if Michelle, my wife, is watching, she really likes mustaches too. So I'm gonna have one next episode. I'm pretty sure of it. We have not had Mike on the show for a while. Mike, how are you doing, man?
Could be on better circumstances. It's great to be back with you guys, see your beautiful faces, and to see the beautiful chat and community that NYJ Today has. However, it is on a sour, bittersweet note, which is Jets do what Jets do and almost gave up another 50 bomb. But hey, sun will rise tomorrow, and although a large portion of the fan base that was in the stadium was wanting to go to Flacco, I think hopefully we all agree at the end of this stream that we go back to what the original game plan was, which is our second overall pick. But who am I to control the Jet universe and where we head next as a franchise? But it's good to be with you guys.
Awesome to have you back. James, how you feeling tonight, man?
I don't know, man. It's a rough day, but we'll get through it eventually, I hope, anyway.
Yes. Chad, how about you? How you doing this evening?
Comfortably numb. I've reached the numb part of the season, and that's all I can really say about it. I mean, I'm glad that we get to do stuff like this, so we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like every Sunday I go into this and I'm miserable, and then afterwards I don't feel great, but I do feel slightly better after having talked about it. So we'd love to hear from you guys in the stream. If you're just tuning in, feel free to let us know your takes, your questions, comments about the game we saw today. There's a lot of things that we do not like, from this game, obviously, and we're going to discuss pretty much all of it. So let's go ahead and start with the Robert Saleh, game management today I thought was pretty poor, and it wasn't just the score. I want to make sure that I emphasize that to everybody who's watching. It's not just that we lost by 35. It's the little things that add up and worsen the situation that was already bad. Do you know what I mean? Like it was already going to be bad, and then the things that he was doing or not doing made it even worse. So, speaking of which, it is a 4-person stream tonight. So if at any point you guys want to say something after the first person talks, just chime right the hell in. We're going to go to Mike because he hasn't been on in a while. Mike, Robert Saleh, talk to me.
Yeah. We have real coaching issues, boys and gals out there. We have legit coaching issues. And at week 10, I don't feel that's premature to say. Even with this being their first year, I'll be shocked if our coordinators, and I mean both coordinators, make it through the season. Do I think Jeff has a chance getting a pass? Maybe in terms of how the defense was the more positive note in the first half of the season. I don't see how. I'll be shocked if Mike makes it through, and even Robert, who I know will be back. I think we all probably would agree to that, and probably he needs another season just to get past per season woes. But I'm not impressed with what I see with Robert. We were talking before the stream started about I was really losing it with that going forward on fourth down. We had 3 timeouts. I couldn't remember how many timeouts, John. You reminded me of that. I thought we had 2. We had 3 timeouts. Robert's not calling plays, right? So what's he doing? And we end up getting a delayed game. Like that is just it's just so rookie. It's just so embarrassing. Like I'm okay losing. And I actually like the way the Lions are playing better than we are, and the Lions are they're a winless team right now. I think the Lions are playing their heart out every game, and we don't. Our team is just not prepared. They don't believe in the all gas no break. Right now, it looks like all mistakes and don't do anything. That looks like what our motto is. And it's just to me, I know we have talented players, and they're just not being put in a position or being prepared to be successful. And to me, I think we have a real coaching issue, and I think Week 10 is appropriate to say that. I think that's where I'm at right now.
Cool. James or Chad, either one.
You go ahead, Chad.
I'm not ready to throw the coaches under the bus quite yet. I know that it's bad, and I know that we're wanting to point fingers, but we have to be all in on Salah. I know this is rough. And look, last week I sat here and I was or after the Indy game, I was all Mr. Positive, and I don't have a whole lot of anything positive to say right now. But we got to give these guys more time. We have to. I don't think 10 weeks is enough time to get it together. I really don't.
Okay, fair enough. James, you got anything you want to add on top of that?
Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest piece is the delay game on 4th down there. I mean, it's a totally inexcusable play. You have obviously Robert Saleh's not calling the plays, but in that situation, he's got to be aware of the clock and the fact that it is ticking down. Just use a timeout, preserve the 4th and 1, and continue on there. Buffalo knows you're going for it. It's not some kind of trick or anything like that. So at that point in time, he has to be aware of the play clock and get the timeout called in that situation. The defense, to me, coaching-wise too, is a little bit unexcusable after considering, the amount of points we let up, obviously, the last 4 weeks out of the bye here. But just for it to happen again today is no pressure, right? No pressure up front. I'm not saying the pressure up front is the coaching. Those guys need to do their job as well. But it's more so just seems like a lack of adjustment. We're in this bend, don't break type of defense here, and we're breaking quite a lot. So something there needs to change. One of my bigger gripes on here is when Brandon Eccles went down, right? Brandon Eccles goes down, and Javelin Guidry gets thrown in there, and at that point in time, you have him one-on-one, back-to-back plays with Stephon Diggs. It worked the first time. Stephon Diggs made a great. He could have made a great play. He only got 1 foot in. But then to come back the next play and put Javelin Guidry one-on-one again with Stephon Diggs, you know what they're going to do. Why not try to change up the coverage or change up the look at that point in time? So there's some kind of adjustment, preparation deal kind of going on defense where it's not working. They have to get it figured out. If I had to say anyone's job was probably in jeopardy after this year, it's most likely Jeff, in my opinion. I think given Zach Wilson and his age and him being only a rookie, Mike calling plays for the first time, I think they're going to give those two time to gel together. But what's happening on the defense is, I get it, there's a lack of talent, but there are points where it's completely unexcusable what's happening.
Yeah, everybody's speaking all the truths right now. We'll go to the chat for just a few moments. Rick Fisher says Ulbrich should be on the hot seat, and that kind of echoes what we're all kind of suggesting. Although, Chad, I think you kind of are on the mindset of let's not, no matter how bad it gets this year, we really do need to wait and see on it for a full season, and then maybe even into next year. Gumball 3D, good to see you in the chat. Whoops, that's not Gumball. He says we really need an edge rusher, a tight end, O-line help, especially on the right side, and a wide receiver with Mims. Not looking like he is the long-term answer on this team. Yeah, well, Mims didn't play today, and I think you know that. So we'll see. But I'm very concerned about Mims just based on the lack of usage, obviously, but also when he has played these last couple of weeks, he's had a couple of miscues, drops, and so it's concerning for sure. There's no way to twist that one. Unfortunately, I would love to be positive on Mims right now, but it's hard to be. Grant Rude, he says, effort, coaching, inexperience with scheme, talent, execution, mismanagement, situational calls, underprepared, excuse me. There's so much wrong right now, I don't even know who to blame or what to blame.
Yeah. I mean, if I may, I'm not trying to compare coaches, but where's the fire? Like, I don't know. I mean, 2 weeks ago, Roberts, on the field, but when he's winning, but when he's losing, he goes into his shell, and it's just like that's when we need him to be fired up more than ever. Now, I don't know what's like in the halftime in the locker room. Obviously, someone must be communicating some fire, because they've been coming out in the second half and doing things that they just can't seem to do or get started in the first half. But I just get confused with Robert. I agree. I hear where Chad is, and I know, Robert needs another year. But I just get confused because the all gas no break. I just don't see it all the time. And I think I'm a person that likes to see leading by example, right? And sometimes I just don't see it happening. I don't know. Maybe I'm because I just don't see it. I don't. Maybe I'm not watching all the right media coverage of what Robert's doing to really cement that. Someone asked him when they got blown out by New England, like, what are you going to do to move the team forward, like Rex burying the ball underneath the end zone? And Robert was like, I don't think I'm going to do anything. I see how that he was like, I could see how burying a ball could be kind of symbolic, but he didn't know what he was going to. I don't think he did anything. He was just going to be like, we're just going to go back to I think they were going into bye, right? If I remember correctly, he was like, I'm going to take this time and really figure out that. I don't know. I know it's first gig, but I don't see him leading by example when it comes to the all gas no break. I'm just going to say that.
Fair enough, man. Lindels, he says, Ulbrich is horrible. No adjustments. Saleh needs to take responsibility, and players are not being held accountable. Disgusting week after week. That is one of my big concerns as well, is the accountability, not changing up the lineup. I still have no idea why Greg Van Roten is playing every week, starting every week. Why are they not making a change? It doesn't seem to make any sense to be so stubborn with that. Johnny Jets, he says, I personally think Zach struggles if he had played today. It almost feels like it does not matter who is at quarterback when the rest of the team plays that badly. That's probably a fair take. I think it's very fair to say that Mr. Zach Wilson would have struggled today. James, any thoughts on that? And Chad, you as well, if you want to chime in too on, maybe it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, I personally don't think it would have mattered if Zach was in there. Could we have seen probably some good stuff from Zach? I'm sure, but there was a little bit of what was going to be a reality check on the offensive side of the football. We kind of went from Cincinnati, the Colts, even though we gave up 45 points, the offense did move the football, so there was some hope there that we were kind of turning a corner. And then the Buffalo Bills come into town, and they were just one of the best, if not the best defense in the league. They were letting up 177 yards per game, passing-wise, 262 total yards, 14 points a game, and they hadn't let up a passing touchdown since October 11th. So that's, about a month or so, right? Yeah, a little over a month now.
That's damn good.
So, yeah, and they forced turnover, so it was going to be a battle. They're very responsible in terms of their their scheme and how they attack it, and their safeties are extremely talented. It makes it very hard to throw the football. So I think we would have struggled on offense no matter who was at quarterback today.
I think so too. Chad, any thoughts?
Yeah, I want to go back to an earlier point. I struggle with this idea that we need to see Robert Saleh jumping up and down and going crazy on the sideline, because what I worry about there is that he then loses the credibility factor of the team, because what what would be worse for us than not seeing him display emotion is having him be overly emotional, like a Jim Harbaugh or something on the sideline, and then the players are just checked out, right? Because now
Who
that
be
how
typing?
quickly do you want to lose your team? And then beyond that, honestly, if he's going to, like, let's just say he's stoic, right? And then let's say, God, I mean, I know this seems like a snowball's chance in hell, but let's say one day, maybe next year or the year after that, we're actually in a contentious game, and he just goes off, right? Imagine the impact that that's going to have, as opposed to if he does it every single week. You know what I mean? Does
Yeah.
that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense. I think it's fair to point out. All right.
I'll just say, I'll say it really depends on your coach, I think, because like take Dan Campbell of the Lions. The guy's cried in probably 3 press conferences. And I think his players play harder for it. And I think that's why every week they are in those games, whether it is a conference leader or whether it's a dud and they it's a game they walk away saying, how do we lose to that team? That team has been competitive in every one of their losses. And I like how the Lions play better than how we play. And that's me. That's me as an individual. Now, to your point, is Belichick raving on the sideline? No, he's as stoic as a statue. But him as a tactician, he doesn't need to rave and do a whole bunch of things. His coaching speaks for itself, and unfortunately, Robert just doesn't have that yet in his tenure as the Jets head coach.
I hear what you're saying. So you're saying that the emotion and like the leadership is why he was brought in, and we need more of that. I have no problem with either one of your takes on that one. I think they're both fair. We're going to move on. This is what I'm going to wrap up the Robert Saleh discussion with, and I really am glad that Grant Reed put it in there. I was going to mention it. Saleh talked about how the first year in San Francisco, they were transitioning defensively. They did not play very well that first year. And I'm not excusing Saleh because we talked about a bunch of the things I didn't like. But the one thing I will say is they are transitioning from a 3-4 defense to a 4-3 defense. It's not an overnight change. They don't have all the pieces. It's obvious they don't. And so we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer. So we will move on from Robert Saleh. We can obviously talk some more about him. And right here, NY Jets Florida sums this up nicely. He says, it's obvious we probably have the least amount of talent of any team in the NFL. I don't know if that's true or not, but it certainly feels like we could lose to anybody, if that makes any sense. Like we are not playing like a consistent football team, and I feel like anybody could have us. And I think you could say that for any team, but for the New York Jets, it feels like we could probably lose most games, if not all games, that whoever we play, no matter who it is. Edward Stewart, we'll move on after this one because this is the last Saleh comment. He says, I still see Saleh as a defensive coordinator, which is pretty concerning. That's a thought that maybe is crossing people's minds. All right, let's go ahead and let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about Corey Davis. I'm going to let James go first on this one. Chad, you can go second on that one. And then, Mike, you're the hater of Corey Davis this offseason, so I'll let you go last. What have you seen from Corey the last, or I guess today, and then he was out the last week or two? What's your overall assessment? Because I saw some people on Twitter really going after Corey, and I'm not prepared to do that, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. So, James, you're up.
Yeah, no, Corey Davis definitely got a lot, obviously because of the situation in which he made a mistake, right? That had a massive impact, maybe not on the end result of the game, right? But Mike White makes a great play and Corey Davis fumbles the ball, right? But part of that also was he didn't even look like he made a clean catch. And that's something that I think we've seen almost kind of consistently throughout this season from him is he comes over from the Tennessee Titans, and I think he had 3 drops and 1 fumble last year. And we're at about 5 or 6 drops to this point and 2 or 3 fumbles right now. We're only through 10 weeks, and he hasn't even played every single game. And so I think Corey, he doesn't deserve, the hate. I don't think most of these guys do, but I think we maybe need to just step down from wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 1B or so, or wide receiver 2, and we need to get ourselves that upper echelon guy. So Corey Davis, he's going to be productive. He's got experience. His route running's great. The separation he can create, it's not always there. But what he needs to do is he needs to work on the catch point and also holding onto the ball after he gets it. That's been a problem that I don't think any of us really expected to this point in the season.
Yep. Chad, what are your thoughts on Corey Davis to this point and after today?
Corey Davis was frustrated with not getting an offer from Tennessee, and the reason why is what we saw today. I mean, how many times in every game has Corey Davis had at least one play where the ball hits him in the hands and bounces off? Right?
About.
Yeah. How many times are we going to see that? How many times is he going to drop a ball in a critical moment? And I mean, I'm not trying to get on him too much, but because I like him I like his character, but come on, man, you got to make those plays. I mean, dude, if he would have caught and held on to that ball, that could have changed the entire scope of the play if we score on that drive, right? Or if we score a touchdown on that drive, sorry. And it's just it's every time, right? Related to this, but unrelated, who was the announcer that kept saying we have 4 slot receivers in Corey Davis?
Jay.
What the hell was he talking about? Did anybody pick up on that?
Yeah, Jay Feely.
Yeah, Jay Feely's the Jets have 4 slot receivers, and then they have Corey Davis. And he said it 3 times. What the hell does that
He did.
What does that mean? What the hell is he talking about?
I guess Berrios, Elijah Moore, Jamison Crowder's 3 that I can, flip off the top of my head.
Keelan Cole, yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe because Keelan played a lot of slot in Jacksonville, but I don't know if I call him a slot guy. Whatever. Frig him. Frig that guy. All right. Mike, anything you want to add on top of the Corey Davis bash fest?
I'm with Chad. I mean, I think Chad hit on. Our free agents maybe. I mean, I think it's rightful that we hold them to a different expectation and a different bar.
Are you guys getting feedback from him? Any feedback from his sound? I can't. If it's just me, I apologize. Is it just me? No? Okay. Sorry.
Do a sound check? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it just sounds a little bit funny, but it's okay. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think what Chad at least kind of struck for me is, I do hold our free agents to a higher standard because paired, but with feedback on your side. So it's like your speakers are on or something. But anyway, but I'll make it short. I just think that Corey is not the anchor, at least not in the big moments that we need him to be with these critical drops, critical fumbles. And when you have a rookie quarterback and when we need our free agents to kind of be that anchor for us while the new talent develops, he's just not fulfilling that expectation. I think that's where I'm with Chad on that.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say is that I was hopeful that he could be a poor man's wide receiver 1 for us. Clearly that's not the case. I mean, I would be pretty safe to assume that at this point. But having said that, though, if he's being utilized and potentially overutilized as a wide receiver 1 and he's not that, it's kind of easy to see how this is maybe too much for him and too much is being asked of him. I still really like him as a wide receiver too, a lot. I think he still has a lot of upside in this offense as a 2. The tricky part, who's the wide receiver 1 and where are we getting them? Where are we getting that player from? Is it going to be a trade route? Because and this is the thing, we've seen Arizona do this for Kyler Murray. We've seen Buffalo do this for Josh Allen. DeAndre Hopkins was traded for. Stephon Diggs was traded for. I don't know who they could potentially trade for, but getting somebody like that for a young quarterback, kind of important. And we're seeing how getting those guys in the building earlier rather than later, it's a huge, huge benefit to their development and to helping them be successful. And ultimately, that's how I view Corey Davis. I think that if he had a wide receiver one on the other side, it would make his life very easy, and it certainly would make whoever's playing quarterback their life a lot easier. Let's go to Lindell's here. He says Corey can't get through a game without a game-changing fumble. That's what Joe gets for bargain shopping. He's the main problem with his signings and his drafting. So from Joe Caporoso of the Badlands, he put out a tweet earlier, and he said, look, it doesn't matter how you slice it, Joe Douglas, I think that the stat was something like he's 3-24 or something really, really bad in his last however many games. I mean, when do we get to be critical, and when do we start to make some judgments on some of the moves? Off the top of my head right now, I'm really not loving the idea that we brought in Jared Davis. It certainly hasn't panned out or hasn't helped our defense in any way, shape, or form. So when do we get critical? Chad, why don't you go first for the first time this evening? Are you ready to do that? Are you ready to start? I mean, we don't have to go on a hate trail for Joe Douglas, but should we perhaps start really pinpointing some moves and saying, you know what, that just isn't good enough?
This is the direction that we've been trending, though, because as a fan base, we are looking to we want either some change to happen or we want to collectively blame someone, and it's like most of us realize that it's too early to blame and direct our ire at Salah. And it's also like we realize that we're learning a new offensive and new defensive system. So we're all focusing on the guy that's been here theoretically the longest, and that's Joe Douglas. And the problem is that Douglas, the trades that we know and love him for, the goodwill that he got from that is kind of running out, especially now deep into the season. So right now it's about wins and losses and production on the field, and we're not really caring about the 2 first rounders in next May, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All that being said, no, I don't think it's too early to start picking on Joe Douglas. But again, we mentioned this last week. We're going to be spinning our wheels for a while here because I think we all agree that he gets another at least 2 years, if not 3.
Yeah,
right.
I agree with that. I think he's going to be here for sure next season. There's no doubt in my mind. If we lost every single game the rest of the season, I do not see the Jets pulling the plug on Douglas or Salah, no matter how ugly it gets. I really do believe that. Mike, what do you think? Anything you want to add on the Joe Douglas comment?
I know. I just want to clarify for this group, which is, I'm not saying my statement on coaching is a concern, and I don't feel it's premature to say that. I don't think it's one particular person. I do have confusion with Robert. I have disappointment with the coordinators, and I'll just carry that right to Joe D. So to me, it's just collective, just disappointment in terms of the cohesion and some of the thought process or expectations that I had as a fan. But you really don't know, and I think we know. I think that Hard Knocks really kind of showed that to me, which is we really don't know how the conversations progress behind the scenes. We obviously, I can't remember the name of the documentary, showed the war room between Joe D and Robert. So obviously there's discussions, there's agreements of who did Joe D like throughout the free agency? What did Robert think? And you really can't pinpoint on one person. So I'm really just echoing what Chad is saying. I think to me, I'll just sum it up and just say, even though it's premature to put it on one person, I don't think it's premature to say the front office, including the coaching, seems to be the common thread here of where we are somewhat keeping an eye on or keeping our finger on that, because it seems to be the one recurring theme of why we play the way we do. So I just want to clarify, I'm not really going after one particular person. I think Joe D's in the same group as the coaching staff is, at least for me. I kind of group it that way.
Sounds good. James, you have anything you want to add on top of that?
Yeah, I see it the other way. And I don't know if it's just I'm a fan of Joe Douglas, so I don't know maybe if there's like a bias there. I mean, I don't have like any actual bias towards him, but like if you look at today and probably throughout the season, right? All the guys that are really contributing, right? And I shouldn't really say contributing, but it kind of is what it is because they're contributing to these awful losses, but these guys that are making some of these plays, Michael Carter, we have he's a good running back there. We got him in the 4th round. Elijah Moore is going to make plays for a very long time in this league, and hopefully it's for the Jets. Elijah Vera Tucker, that's a very nice piece at left guard to put next to a hopeful, healthy Mekhi Becton who came from Joe Douglas. Then you look at it in terms of the defensive end. Bryce Hall is going to be a good player back there. Who else made a really good play today and a couple good plays today? Michael Carter II, another 5th round, 4th round pick. One of those two, we had a whole bunch of those at the end there. But a lot of these guys, Brandon Eccles, while he was in the game, other than the one that he got beat really deep, it was a double move. That's going to happen throughout his career. Hopefully more, not a ton of times, but it's going to happen, especially early at this point in time, facing a guy like Stephon Diggs. But I see it as Joe Douglas inherited something that was so bad that it's going to take time. And I think that was a part of making some of these trades to compile picks because they knew this thing is going to take time in terms of really completing a roster. Now, on the draft side is where I think he gets a pass. And not really a pass, where I think he did a really good job and where I trust him with the 4 top 45 picks that we're likely going to have next draft. It's the free agency where I want him to just dip into that pocket just a little bit more and not to go crazy, but not be so stringent on just a couple extra dollars and he shuts the door on somebody. I think there has to be, at this point with Zach going to be going into his 2nd year, the Jets in a good cap space situation. If there's a guy that you really like and it's only going to cost a couple more million, don't shut the door on someone who's going to get a 1-year, $4 million deal and you say, we'll deal with it later. I think that's where, for him, he has to kind of improve, and it's the free agency aspect of adding to this team.
Yeah, and you could even say maybe even trading some assets away. I know he wants to build through the draft, but there is a time and place also to get aggressive to make moves that will benefit Zach, which is perhaps something that I'm going to need to read up on and research for this upcoming offseason is who are some people that could be traded for that could really help and benefit Zach in his sophomore season. We will obviously talk about the draft because we already said a couple of weeks ago we're going to start having probably nightly discussions about the draft, and we've got our first question in the chat, so we are going to go ahead and talk about that because why the hell not? Because there's a lot of bad things to discuss tonight. And we can throw in something that's a little bit more exciting. Before I do get to that, I do want to read a few more of the comments. Joe Campione, he says, if you add a top tight end, and I'm assuming he means in the draft, you could live with Davis as a wide receiver 1. I want and need a tight end on this team, worse than any other position, maybe even on the offense. I know right guard's terrible right now, but tight end's just really, really bad. There's no threat there. Kev Chata, he says, late here. You're not late, you're on time. And he says, 10 days off, and again, Jets coaching cannot prepare the defense or the offense. That's an interesting point. Because coming out of the bye, really, really bad. Embarrassing, all of those things. 10 days off, coming off the Thursday night game, embarrassing, and very, very poor performance. I'm glad you commented on that. And a lot of people are ready to start holding JD a little bit more accountable. And I just want to say I do like JD, and I'm a fan of his, and I do like the draft picks that he's made. They're not all going to be hits. And I just think it's fair that we critique and criticize maybe some of the moves. Because like you said, James, like not necessarily going on a frenzy here, spending money, but perhaps instead of spending, the $5 million that you spent on Jared Davis, maybe you could have gone out and gotten somebody a little bit better, somebody that could have helped us this season and potentially into the future. I don't know if there was a player necessarily like that in free agency, but we do need to
Or the Flacco.
Say again?
Sorry.
Oh, the Flacco trade?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you called it in your video. Like, why did it take the Jets until week 9 or was it week 6?
Whatever.
To have a veteran quarterback. Sorry,
yeah.
I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, it's okay. I think anything like that, I think it's okay to talk about. All right, so let's get back to the good stuff because I'm tired of being negative. What do we do with our top 2 number 1 picks? And it looks like Seattle lost today. Is that correct? Did they lose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bad.
So,
17-0.
Yes, and Russell Wilson, I think, had a really bad game, and maybe he needs more time coming off that finger injury. What do we think, guys? Positions, if you want to name players, that's fine too. And guys in the chat, gals in the chat, go ahead and I told you, James, this is trouble. I would like to request an NYJ Today stash off.
There you go.
I told you. All right, so I want to hear positions, and if you want to name a player, that's totally fine. But what would you do? Mike, you're going to go first. If you want to just do positions, that's totally fine.
Yeah. Did the question frame the pick number or just any?
Positions in the first round, because we've got 2 firsts in the first round.
Yeah, I really gotta. I'm gonna go based on position because I haven't started following town and coming up in college enough. But I definitely think offensive line needs to be the target. We still have a weak offensive line.
Is Penei Sewell available?
If only, baby. If only. He could have solved all our. No, I'm just kidding. Don't put me down that hole again. But no, I think offensive line has to be. And Chad, I might be stealing from you because I think it was one of your Sunday streams in the past where you said, I don't care who's in the top talent of the draft. We need to go offensive line to combat what we're seeing, particularly on the right side. So at least one of those top picks needs to be offensive line for me. The other one, I would be open to a tight end. I'm with you, John. I think the tight end is horrendous where we're at right now. So I'll just leave it at that. I think my top 2 would probably be either 2 offensive line investments or the line and a tight end if they were high enough to warrant that high of a pick, I guess I should say.
All right, Chad. I think I saw on Twitter that I might be converting you, maybe.
Yeah. Does that count as going viral if I have 15 likes?
I retweeted you, so that you got a little action there.
I got the NYJ Today bump. No, man. Yeah, I mean, after what I was seeing, I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and get that edge rusher. But that's going to happen in the first round. I hope to God, but I need that center or right guard. I know it's unsexy. I know we're not going to run out and buy the jersey of the new right guard, but I don't care. I want to compliment on the right side or in the center to Elijah Vera Tucker. I want someone who has the capability of leading that offensive line for the next 10 years. I hate to throw this out there, but I have my concerns about Becton, right? And as much as I love AVT right now, he's still only one man. I want another guy on there. I do not. I'm so tired of watching that turnstile GVR just get worked every single game over and over and over again. I'm having flashbacks to Adrian Clark. It is not good. So I want a right guard or a center, but preferably a right guard in the worst way.
Fair enough. James.
So I would go edge right now. If considering likely, we're probably looking at a top 4 pick, I would say, right? Based on kind of what we've seen the last few weeks, it doesn't feel like we're going to win very many games. Hopefully for us, they turn into competitive losses. But as it stands right now, they're probably going to be losses either way you slice them. So if we're in that situation of the top 4 pick, Obviously, in my opinion, Thibodeau from Oregon, he's going to probably go first overall, considering the quarterback class is not very great. And the other guys you'd probably look at are Hutchinson from Michigan, Karlaftis from Purdue. Those guys are going to be near that top edge class, and it is a very deep class. So probably as we get closer to draft season and names start to come up, the guys that are could potentially go in a second round or something like that. Maybe things could change, and when you try to shore up the back end, and you can't pass up on a guy like Kyle Hamilton. But I can't see Joe Douglas going safety at that high of a pick, despite the talent. We've kind of been there before. And then that second first round pick, I do want to go offensive line. And I don't care if the guys at Pro Football Focus think that it's a bad value pick. It doesn't matter to me. It plain and simple. What happened, to GVR today, what's happened to him in the past, it's unacceptable because it blows up the entire play. It blows up the entire offense. And the guy we would look at, especially if we want a right guard, and we do have one of those, top 12 pick, and it comes from Seattle, likely going to be Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M. And if it's a center, and we're picking that high, you're looking at a, Tyler Linderbaum, who's kind of like the Jets' first round pick everywhere you look on Twitter. At this point in time, he's super talented at the center position. So those two guys, if you're going to pick an interior offensive lineman at that high in the draft, those are going to be the two names that you're going to see, throughout the draft process. But that first pick, I'm sorry, we got to go edge rusher. I know Carl Lawson, hopefully he comes back healthy next year. And the Achilles is in the past. That's no promise. There's no guarantee with that kind of injury that he is going to be just as explosive as he always was. And I think, John Franklin Myers, I'm glad we signed him. He's a good football player. But consistently off the edge, that speed off the edge, that's not really always going to be there for him. And if there's that Hutchinson at the 4th overall pick, that can potentially be, I don't know, I'm just throwing a name out there, but a TJ Watt type of player, you can't physically pass up on that when you have a team that's predicated on getting pressure with the front four.
Yeah. I won't talk long on it because you and I see it the same way. I've been saying it for a while. We need to go edge. Point blank. Our pass rush is not good enough right now. Even, I know some people are saying Carl Lawson will be back, and yeah, he very likely will be back, but we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. We saw Michael Thomas get injured the previous year, and I know it's not the same injury, but he didn't play this year. And it can happen. And so you can't just sit there and twiddle your thumbs and say, oh, yeah, Carl Lawson will be back. He was dominating in preseason and training camp. We can't count on that. It's like counting your eggs before they hatch. So even if Carl Lawson were to come back and was a dominant force, where's the harm in getting another edge rusher that can get after the quarterback? Because you said it, James. Jonathan Franklin Myers, that's not really his game. He's more of that versatile defensive lineman that could play in the interior, can also play on the edge. So to me, it's got to be edge first and then O-line second. I'm well on that mindset right now. Like, that's where we should go with our 2 firsts. If we do something different than that, I'm not going to lose my mind. Some people are like, oh, you don't want Hamilton? Like, what the hell's wrong with you? Our secondary sucks. Like, we need... And I get it. Like, he's really, really talented. I just don't see that happening. I don't see JD making that move, and I also don't really see the benefit in having a really good safety back there when we're not getting after the quarterback. Like, we aren't getting after the quarterback. So there's really nothing to be gained by having a guy like that in the secondary when you're not impacting the quarterback on a down-to-down basis. All right. So my wife's dropping all kinds of stats in the chat. She's talking about these positions she wants. She says tight end, edge rusher, safety would be great. NY Jets Florida, he says let's go get a cornerback to go with Hall. That's a very common one. A lot of people want a corner. I wouldn't complain, but But again, I feel like it's still kind of putting the cart before the horse. We do not have our pass rush, so why even worry about it until we get that line really going? Let's see. I don't see too many others. Some people are saying best player available. Grant Rude says best player available except for a defensive tackle. I think that's what he said. Besides defensive tackle, yes. Go play best player available. Every pick hit a hole on the roster. Yeah, there's a million holes, so we can't really be too mad if they take a guy like a Hamilton because there's a hole there. We can't really be mad if they take a Sauce Gardner because there's a hole there at that outside cornerback position. So I'm not gonna lose my mind over it. I feel like there's a lot of ways that they could go. All right, let's see here. DSNY73, he says, got to do something about the secondary. It's still very porous. Need to find a draft a top-notch DB. Jason Rhodes, welcome to the show. Good to see you. Joe Campione says, if Hamilton is available with the Seattle pick, Douglas is sprinting to the podium. Okay, fair enough. He might. I would be a little bit surprised if he did.
Yeah, it's not happening.
I don't think so. I think he's super good, so don't get, and that's the thing, like a lot of people get really mad, like they're like, oh, don't you see how good like Hamilton is? Everybody sees how good he is. He's super versatile, rangy, makes plays on the football. But it's like, I don't want to repeat myself, but it's like putting the cart before the horse. Let's see. What if Garrett Wilson is available with Jets' second first-round pick? You'll have to let me know who Garrett Wilson is. Is he a receiver?
Yeah, so Grant brings up a good point because I was going to ask it before in terms of how opposed would you guys be if they took a wide receiver with that second first-round pick, and Grant kind of hit it right on the head, and it would be someone most likely a Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. All you have to do is kind of look up what he did this past Saturday, and he's just a very special all-around player at the wide receiver position for Ohio State. Spectacular catches, the route running, the speed, everything is there, and he's most likely going to get that name call for that first wide receiver spot.
There's a lot of people who like the USC kid too. I don't know his name off the top of my head. A lot of people like him a lot as a wide receiver in the league. I would not lose my mind. Corey Davis is the vet of the group. Regardless, he'll be back next year. The only concern I do have, though, is, assuming Denzel Mims is back, he's only in his third year. Elijah Moore would be in his second year. So there'd just be a lot of young bodies in that group. So that would be my only concern. But it doesn't mean that you can't take a wide receiver in the draft, because we certainly could use that wide receiver one, as we talked about earlier. This is the thing. We're going to talk about this. Everybody's going to get a turn on this one. I was talking to my wife, looking to her. We have recliners in our living room, and I'm looking at her, and she's looking at me, and I'm like, how the hell did we beat the Bengals and the Titans? How? And I get it every Sunday, any given Sunday. How did that happen? How did that happen? Rick Fisher, how could the defense play so well against the Titans? They played okay. Not so well, but they played better than what they've been doing, and then fail in subsequent games. Mike, how did this happen? How did we do this? How did we beat two teams that are competing in the AFC and then just completely crap the bed every other time?
Well, I think that's why, I'm not going to give the best. I don't know. I'm sure there's better answers out there. To me, the only way my brain rationalizes that question is I look at it from these angles, which is one, as much as we know we have holes and maybe some draft talent is taking longer, and some are not taking as much time to get ramped up. I think what we would all say is team with its youth has advantages going into a game, particularly if they're prepared. So, I really think that some of the erraticness of how these players play and play together as a team, really comes down to what's happening off, that we can't see, what's happening in the prep rooms, what's happening in the training rooms and things of that nature. That's to me is probably the biggest driving factor of how we're hot sometimes and how we're not. I will say in both of those games, I think those teams mostly got us halfway there. Tennessee missed a field goal at the end, and then the Bengals went on to another game and played horribly. I think I know Joe Burrow threw like 4 interceptions or something like that. So the Bengals are dealing with their own inner demons, and I think the Jets were just kind of there at the right time and the right place type of thing. I'm not taking anything away from the players, but
Sure.
I just think those teams got us halfway there, and then it just so happens that whatever our coaching staff and whatever the players are doing, at the facility, just kind of hit that day. That to me are the two, probably luck and just kind of us trying to find our sea legs with what makes us tick, and it just so happened to line up on those 2 games. But I'm not coming out of those 2 games feeling like that we advanced in any way, especially after how we played today. I think we could really very easily be the Lions if things were just a little bit different. So, I don't know. There's probably a better answer, but that's the only way my brain rationalizes it.
Fair enough. Chad, you want to add anything? How did we do that? And how is it that things are so polar?
It's like somebody in the chat just said, we caught Tennessee in the right conditions, missing their top 2 or top 3 wide receivers. Plus our pass rush was on that day, and I don't think that those 2 things are unrelated. I mean, you could make an argument that the wide receivers were, difficult to find routes. They had built a rapport with the quarterback, because we didn't keep Derrick Henry in check that game. I mean, unless you count, so that's really what it was. And then the Bengals game was a classic trap game. I mean, we knew that was a trap game for them going in. The only chance we had was for that to be a trap game, and it was. I mean, they completely overlooked us. They were coming off a big, huge victory in Baltimore. And trap games are a real thing. I mean, look what Miami just did to the Ravens. Look what Miami did to the Bills that just put up 45 on us today. Trap games are a real thing, and that's how it happened.
Yep, fair enough.
Because every team's going to overlook us, man. It's like human nature.
I wish they overlooked us every week. James, anything else you want to say?
Yeah, no, I would just add to that and just say there was definitely a physicality to both of those games that we probably haven't seen in the other 7. Titans game, obviously we didn't, we contained Derrick Henry in terms of, what containing Derrick Henry is. But, you can remember from that game that hit that Quincy Williams had on Derrick Henry. You just don't see a lot of guys hit Derrick Henry like that. The 7 sacks against Ryan Tannehill. The defense was on in terms of just being physical at the line of scrimmage and getting to the quarterback, and kind of the same for the Bengals. Mike White throws a pick, and who's there on 4th down? It's Quinnen Williams bursting through the line to sack Joe Burrow, and you create some momentum early on, and there's definitely a physicality in those 2 games that it just seems like we were able to force some negative plays in those games, and now it's just like go down the field. It's just a matter of how quick the team gets down the field at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody's pretty much echoing what you guys are saying, so I will leave it at that. Eagle Fang Sports. Jets just need to get aborted and move to London. Another 45 points given up by the defense. They have not been the same since the London game. Yeesh. Ay. I'm not even touching that. Yeah, we're not going to London, but I get what you're saying. It's bad right now. Joe Campione, he says, the teams that are blowing us out do certain things really well. Protect the quarterback, and our D-line was manhandled. Yeah, it's been pretty since the Titans game, I would say. Even the Bengals game, the defensive line wasn't really doing that much to impact Joe Burrow. It's been very inconsistent and not nearly good enough for sure. He says also, it's too bad you can't fire owners in all sports. All right. Let's see. Let's go ahead and let's move on. If you guys have more comments or more questions and more takes that you would like to have read, please feel free to put them in. I will selfishly ask you to go ahead and jet up the like button on the stream. Got almost 30 people in here right now. Would love it if you guys could hit the like button. And I will also remind you guys that I will be working on the podcast tomorrow and Tuesday. So if you would like to send in a voicemail to the podcast and when you'd like to appear on it, just go ahead and send in, or excuse me, just give me a call. I'm going to put that number on the screen. Feel free to call at any time. It will be good all day, every day, starting now. You can call. It's no big deal. So we'll move on, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the defensive line. We've talked about how it's not been good enough. We know that we don't have Carl Lawson, but I'm going to move that to the side for right now. And James, I'm going to come to you first. Why is it that they're underperforming? It feels like they are not doing, even minus Carl Lawson, what I was hoping. So my expectations definitely went down. I said it in a video, this defensive line's not going to be what it could have been without Carl. But even after the Carl injury, I was like, okay, we could probably still expect to see some good play from our defensive line because we had all these guys. We had Fatukasi, who's played excellent in the past. Yep. We've had Quinnen Williams, who's played excellent in the past. We like Jonathan Franklin Myers a hell of a lot on the channel. We spent a ton of time talking about him in the offseason and the preseason. Bryce Huff was the guy we were, optimistic on. So what, and did I even mention Sheldon Rankins, former first-round pick, another vet on the defensive line? What is causing this defensive line to underperform so badly? Before you answer that, thank you to Rick Fisher for the super chat. Really appreciate that. So thank you for the support. James, why don't you go first? What is happening?
Yeah, so I'll start with the run game, right? Because clearly we can't stop the run. That's a major concern, and that starts with the guys up front. And part of it is, I think, and John, you kind of made a point to it earlier in terms of the switch to the 4-3. And with the switch to the 4-3, they're responsible for one gap, and they're just kind of flying upfield, but they're not looking at what's in front of them, right? And we saw it a lot with Fatukasi in the Colts game too. I mean, obviously the Colts ran all over us. It wasn't just him, but you could see, they run those traps. O-line traps over. They run it right up the middle there, and we got Fatukasi about 5 or 6 yards up the field, not realizing that, what's kind of going on in front of him. They're just kind of flying upfield, and things are happening, and it's not working out in terms of their recognition of the play. So that's kind of the one piece, I think, in the run game, is that they're kind of just letting things go by. It's kind of the same in terms of the screen game, right? If you feel what I feel like anyway is the Jets have a big recognition problem, play recognition problem up front, and it doesn't stop up front. It's the linebackers as well. We're getting beat with the screen passes, right? Screen passes, guys are just flowing upfield, not reading their keys. We saw it against the Colts, and we saw it again today, really early on in the game in terms of that play action, tight end, the delay drag over, the tight end's wide open for a gain of 17. The Colts hit us with that, and the Bills took it right out of the playbook. And then in the pass game, honestly, I think it's just a matter of some of these guys aren't performing like we expected them to. Sheldon Rankins is an interesting one, right? Because he was dominant at some point in his career for the Saints. And when we signed him, a lot of the hype around him was, hey, can we get him back to 2018 Sheldon Rankins? And unfortunately, he's kind of been a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Non-existent in a sense. Just hasn't contributed. Obviously the loss of Carl Lawson. He brings the power, but he has an underestimated speed off the edge. Right. And the speed off the edge is kind of everything because Shaq Lawson, it was essentially now his replacement there. And he's not the same twitchy type of player off the edge. And so when you're looking at him, and we kind of talked about it with John Franklin Myers in terms of him being a good football player, he can rotate around, but that consistent speed off the edge is not there. Right. And so when you're looking at, the edge, right? This is what I expected preseason was we have Carl Lawson coming off the edge. it forces the quarterback to step up in the pocket, and we're letting him step up into Quinnen Williams, right? And I think what's happening is teams are just getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands quick. They're moving the pocket a little bit. They know that there's no threat from the edge. And they're kind of just able to sit there and they pick apart this zone and they just move down the field. And so I think it's just, part of it is being some guys aren't performing like we expected. And the loss of Carl Lawson, we reacted to that appropriately at the time that it happened with the injury, in terms of there is just no speed off the edge to keep guys in the pocket, step up and fall into the arms of a Foley Fatukasi, a Quinnen Williams. So it's just not coming off the edge like we needed to.
Either one of you guys have anything to add about the defensive line?
I think the lack of talent and lack of experience from an outside linebacker perspective is what is damaging the defensive line, because teams know that they can just, like you were saying, teams know that they can just get the ball out real quick, and that's going to negate a pass rush. Nothing's going to negate a pass rush better than that. And we don't have the linebackers to contain anything that they're going to throw to the flats.
No, you guys hit on everything. Pretty much, I agree with you.
Ooh, I'm muted. My apologies.
No, I can hear you.
Yeah, you guys could hear me, but the chat could not. Sorry about that. I do mute myself every once in a while. I do apologize. Anyway, so we were talking about Jonathan Franklin Myers. I'm wondering where he has been, and I'm wondering what's going on with him. What do you want to say, Mike, about Mr. Jonathan Franklin Myers? He has been very quiet. Not even making an impact in the running game, really.
No, and my suspicions, just because we've been battling injuries. I love your stat where we've had 4 quarterbacks play thus far this season. I just thought that didn't resonate until you said that to me, John, before the stream started. So there's that. But because injuries have just kind of bled us dry, I wasn't sure if there was something I wasn't. But he's been invisible for the most part. So it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, Chad, anything else you want to say about Mr. JFM?
Well, I said last week I would give it some time before we start worrying, but I am starting to get worried. I think it's fair to say.
James, are you noting anything that stands out to you when you watch him?
No, I mean, I'm a little worried, not gonna lie, just a little bit worried. And I think he's a good football player. He had a great stretch to start this season. Obviously you hope he can get back to that. But yeah, it is worrisome when, a guy that's making those kind of plays to start the year and he gets paid, and then all of a sudden it kind of goes away. So, I think he's a good football player, but again, I think consistency wise, sometimes there just may be a hit, and just because of the style of his play. I think it's a little bit different than your traditional, what we think of a speed rusher off the edge. So
yeah, I think it is fair, I think, to say we're a little worried. And again, if it was like he was pressuring the quarterback consistently, or even sporadically, but not getting the sacks, that wouldn't be so concerning because we would see him. We would say, okay, he just put a hit on the quarterback, but we're not even seeing that. And the comments are in there right now. People are not happy with Jonathan Franklin Myers. He got that money, and he's laughing all the way to the bank. We got Mo Wilkerson 2.0. I don't know if we can say that yet because Mo Wilkerson was in fact an alcoholic. It turns out because, and maybe I'm wrong, but he had an alcohol problem. I shouldn't say maybe he was alcoholic. Had an alcohol problem. Got injured in Buffalo in that Week 17 game and never was the same after that. It's so nice that we have so many people willing to point out that I needed to turn my sound on. It takes a village. That's a great expression to live by, and it takes a chat to get my volume on. Jeremy Cravat says at this point a top 3 draft pick is becoming very realistic. It absolutely is. This next 6 weeks are easily the easiest part of our schedule, and we may not win more than 2 games, maybe, if we're lucky. I couldn't possibly see us winning more than 2 games right now in that stretch of games. Mr. Magix, he says, and it's good to have you, Mr. Magix. He says, JFM, another whiff by JD, extending a player a year before he needed to. He's referring to Ryan Griffin, I'm sure. Damn, I hope not, man. I really hope you're wrong, but it sure feels like we should be a little bit concerned at this point. Oh, God. All right. Oh, man. Christopher, he's saying we're not going to win 1. We might not. I felt pretty good going into the 6 games after this Bills game, but I sure don't. I think we may have a game like we had against the Titans or the Bengals. We might pull a game out, but I am certainly going to bet the under on 2 wins. I'm not betting the over for sure. All right. Yeah, so that's the other thing we haven't really talked about. Why don't we go ahead and talk about Zach Wilson? This is the only thing that should really matter the rest of the season, and for this 6-game stretch where it's a little bit kickier, they have to get him playing better football. It doesn't have to be perfect football, but they have to do some things to get him going, to build momentum for the following season. Chad, what are you thinking in regards to Zach? I think he's almost certainly going to be back next week, but I could be wrong on that. What do you think, Chad?
Well, I think he will certainly be back next week. I think the Mike White experiment and hype has now officially come to an end. Honestly, look, man, just for the rest of the way, with the way this offensive line is playing and the way that he plays, high school ball and runs around everywhere, I just don't want him to get hurt again. I know that sounds defeatist, but I want him to just get this experience the rest of the way out and just please be as safe as possible. Luckily we're not playing the Patriots, so maybe we'll get, we'll have a better chance of not getting hurt.
Not to cut anybody off, but we're seeing I have a GD Pats fan in my 5th grade class. I won't name his name, but I was telling him this past week, I was like, you have a better team than you realize, because he's always like, oh, we're not going to make the playoffs. I was like, I'm pretty sure your team's going to the playoffs. They just freaking destroyed Cleveland. Embarrassed them. 45-7. They smashed Cleveland. So
a week ago, I was sitting there, was talking to my buddy, and I'm like, hey, let's get tickets to the Ravens-Browns game because, the Ravens are hot, the Browns are hot. And I'm like, this is going to be a playoff game. This is coming up in 2 weeks. So like, yeah, let's do it. And we dropped like $200 each on these tickets. And then they both just go out since then and just get murdered. And now I'm stuck with these $400 worth of tickets to this game. I mean, I'm still going to go, but shit.
Yeah. It's so miserable. Let's talk a little bit about that. Mike, I'll let you go first. Thoughts on New England just being what they are, just existing in this world. Anything other than suffering after Brady losing, I just cannot believe the success that they are having. It's killing me. It's killing me.
It's coaching. I don't know. I'm probably not the best person to go first because New England is the embodiment of why I'm concerned about our coaching. They are consistent no matter if they draft last or if they draft first. And I don't know if that's just because Foxborough is just blessed, or if Bill Belichick made deals with deities, or Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft is getting more in these rooms than just the rub and tug. I don't know what is happening, but I will say, to me, the logical conclusion is that team is ready to play on every Sunday, and they only get better. So the Jets don't have that. We get hot, we're cold, and for the most part, we're cold. So you tell me, what else could it be other than coaching?
No, I think you're right. It's just so painful. I hate the Patriots. There's not another team in my lifetime that I will ever hate more. I can't stand the fact that they are having this kind of success. It's not really just Mac Jones. It's just that whole team. I want them to suffer. And I want that fan base to suffer, and it's just not happening. Anything that you see or that you take away from the Patriots' success, Chad or James, either one of you.
James, you go ahead. I've been going.
Yeah, it's kind of Mac Jones is like the guy for Bill Belichick. It's like he was just made for him, and it's weird as that sounds. Like, you know, I've said it multiple times here. Like I'm an Alabama fan, so I watched every single snap of Mac Jones, and he's just the guy that, listen, he's just going to go by the book. It's going to be by the book. He's going to execute it like he's supposed to. And for a guy like Bill Belichick and the experience that Josh McDaniels has calling plays, they've kind of groomed him to where, you know, the first, however many 9 games so far, he's kind of just, it's a dink and dunk. It's move the ball methodically down the field. Don't try to make too many mistakes. Don't try to do too much. And then today we saw him, make a couple plays downfield. Like, it feels like they're just grooming him to get more comfortable into making those, downfield throws that he was able to make at Alabama. It wasn't, with the velocity of, some of these other guys, Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson type of thing. But it's kind of scary because it just feels like Mac Jones is one of those guys that he's going to go out every Sunday and he's going to get the job done. And he knows what kind of defense he has, because that defense is, it's a scary group. It's not just Jets quarterbacks that get all screwed up when they play the Patriots defense. It's that scheme. It's those players. It's their, veteran presence. J.C. Jackson gets his hand on a football once or twice a game, it feels like. And they're just a sound football team. That's, kind of what it is right now. And hopefully the Jets can get there at some point in time.
It's terrible, man. I can't stand it. Chad, do you have anything you want to say about the Patriots?
No, I've got nothing to say about the GD Patriots.
Yeah, it's terrible, dude. I can't stand it. I think I hate that almost as much as the current, losing of the Jets. I really despise the Patriots, and watching them flip their season and looking like they are just building something really good there makes me want to vomit every time I look at it. So
it is interesting though that like guys under 40, like we loathe the Patriots, but like generally guys of like our guys in the over 40 generation, they hate the Dolphins the way that we hate the Patriots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. It's because of Marino, I would imagine. I
hate the Dolphins too, but I despise the Patriots.
Yeah. It's all because of the quarterback. And obviously the winning. That does the trick too. NY Jets Florida, he says Judon is great. They spent their money on him. They felt really good about getting him. Certainly seems to be panning out for them. That's for sure. Edward Stewart, he says, as long as Bill is in New England, they will be there. Yeah. Frig, man. I can't stand it. I really can't. Rick Fisher, thanks, Mo Lewis, for the Pats' success. Right. Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Oh, man. All right. We will move along here. So I'm going to throw out one stat, and then we can talk a little bit about our next game, which is versus the Dolphins, fittingly enough, because we just mentioned them. We have got, at this point in the season, I talked about it pre-stream. It's week 10 now, right? We just completed week 10. We have seen 4 quarterbacks play for the New York Jets in that span of time. And if that doesn't stop happening, nothing is going to change. If we cannot protect Zach, if Zach cannot stay healthy, we are looking at some more dark days ahead of us, because it really doesn't feel any different than any other year where we played 3 to 4 quarterbacks in a season. It's just terrible. All right, let's talk a little bit about Miami. James, we're going to go to you first. Any thoughts on that game? I have some thoughts and concerns specifically with the Dolphins, but I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts going into that game versus them?
First thought is Zach has to be 105% healthy for me to play him. That's just my first thought in terms of what the Jets should do there. If he's 97% healthy, I don't play him. Behind this offensive line, he needs to be able to protect himself. And by protect himself, meaning if he's got to get the heck up out of there, he's going to be able to trust his knee and be 100% healthy to use his mobility. That to me, no matter what we saw today from Mike White, he would just have to play again. I just think Zach Wilson needs to be absolutely 1,000% healthy and ready to go for this game on Sunday in order for him to play. Why I also say that is the flashbacks or the concerns is from when Miami just played the Ravens. They gave the Ravens absolute fits. And it was from a cover 0 blitz. They basically just said, hey, listen, we're just going to send the house. I saw a funny tweet on Twitter the other day. It said that the Miami Dolphins basically just played in Gauge 8 all game long, went Madden style, and the Ravens literally couldn't figure it out. And that was the fact of the matter. They said, okay, we're going to have no over-the-top help, and we're just going to kind of send the blitzes. And if you have enough guys to block it, fine. But chances are you're probably not going to have enough guys in there to block. And so what worries me with this offensive line is they've gotten beaten. They've gotten a little bit better communication-wise, but they get beat with stunts and a lot of pressures pretty often. Communication-wise, things break down. We kind of know what we're seeing on the right interior anyway. And so what worries me is Miami just gets up there and they just say, hey, listen, we did this against the Ravens, and let's start out the game this way and see what happens. If Zach Wilson is going to play this game, and it's going to be his first game in, I don't know, 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks or so, 4 weeks. Let's see what he's got. Let's test that knee out and see if he can get out of the pocket, and let's bring the pressure. And if not, if we can't get there, let's see if we can force him into some bad throws in terms of him just feeling like the pressure's there and he's got to get rid of it. So my concern comes on the defensive side in terms of the Dolphins, in terms of what they could potentially throw at Zach if he's in there and potentially not fully healthy to protect himself. So I think it could be another tough matchup. This time around, that defense has to step up this time around. If Tua is back there, he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's anything special. And he's a guy that they need to be able to get after. And there's no real super threat in terms of the outside wide receivers for Miami, but someone we'd have to keep an eye on is Gesicki at that tight end spot. So it could be. I'm not putting anything off the table in terms of this being another rough game, because I honestly don't know what we're going to see schematically, or I guess preparation-wise is probably the better term. Preparation-wise from this team, and if they're going to be ready to play after another 45-point game here.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to agree with you. There's no way they should play him unless he is 100% cleared for contact, for planting, for running, cutting. They cannot put him back out there on the field if he's not ready to go. I think that he probably, if we were in a playoff game, which we're certainly not, but if this were a playoff game, this past game that we just played, I think maybe Zach would have tried to play. They would have had a brace on him, and they would have scripted a game plan that would have limited the amount that he needs to move. So I think that he might be ready to go in this next one, but I am not going to push him out there if he's not ready. Chad, what are your thoughts as we creep up on the Dolphins game coming up?
Yeah, the highest hopes that I have are just that Zach starts to show some signs of professional maturity coming off the past 3 or 4 weeks, where he's not running out of the pocket on every single play. He's not looking to chuck the ball deep on every single play. I want to see a little bit of that boring style football that Salah was talking about a couple weeks ago. And if possible, I want to continue to see the utilization of Michael Carter, as well as our young wide receivers on offense. Defensively, I'd like to see JFM get in and get himself a sack and step back up. And I haven't heard or seen an injury update for Brandon Eccles. I don't know if anybody else has.
Not yet.
I guess we won't hear anything until tomorrow. But I hope that he's back.
Yep. Mike, thoughts on this upcoming game?
Yeah, I'm really. I agree with all your points. I'm definitely cementing with James, and I do think if Zach is to play next week, hopefully because although Mike White struggled today, the blueprint is there. There were some throws that I don't know, they just got away from Mike, and obviously the corners for Buffalo made some plays, but the blueprint's there for momentum to happen, particularly in the first half where we suck. But so I agree with the points made so far. I'm going to say I think our secondary is in the next lane to get a heavy dose of humble pie. Just looking at the Ravens game, I know there were 2 receivers that were just going off for that game. I don't know the Miami team depth chart. I know I think one of them's Albert Wilson. I can't remember who the other one, or not Albert. That's their running back. I don't know. The two wide receivers were just dominating that game.
I hear you.
How much I know about Miami. Isaiah Ford. I think that's the one name I do know. Anyway, I just don't. I think the way Miami's offensive scheme works, I think it definitely shows vulnerabilities in secondaries. Ravens had a hard time containing it, and so I would say our secondary has been really cold lately, and it's going to be interesting to see how they react to Miami's play style. So, but yeah, I agree with the other guys.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of agreeing with James when my wife and I were watching that game, the Ravens and the Dolphins. And I instantly was like, we play them after this week. And seeing them play defensively the way they did versus the Ravens was intimidating, to say the least. And it's very scary to think about Wilson, even if he is 100% healthy, to see him, under assault like Lamar Jackson was. I'm not real keen on that thought. This will be a very, very important game for our coaching staff, and every game is important, so don't get me wrong, but Joe Douglas I don't believe he's won a division game in his time as the GM. I don't think we've won versus the Dolphins, and we certainly haven't beaten the Bills, although we did beat the Bills with Darnold. It was that preseason game basically for the Bills where they didn't play anybody. I think that was under Douglas. I can't remember, but anyway, we have not done well versus our division for a very long time. So right off the bat, those 2 factors just stick in my mind. We've struggled so bad in the AFC East, and we are playing a team that played very, very aggressively defensively, and I don't love the idea with Zach, going back out there and basically just being like, all right, kids, save us, basically. Not not to save the season, but basically to get this offense moving and to get going. A lot of people in the chat, which I'm surprised because when I'm online, I see a ton of people saying, get Zach back out there, get him reps, he needs to learn. A lot of people in the chat are saying the opposite. They're saying Wilson still needs to learn from Flacco on the bench. Wilson cannot learn on the field if he's again running for his life. There's other people. Edward Stewart, he's saying, let's play Flacco. I don't know. I think that if he's healthy, he should probably go back out there. But I am a very much of the frame of mind that if he weren't to play for a couple more weeks, I got no problem with that. And I do still stand by the fact that, even though Mike White didn't play well today, Zach benefited from watching him run the offense because I still see, how he executed. And it's like the opposite of what Zach is doing. He needs to get through his reads quickly, get the ball out fast. So, I don't know. I don't want to go off on a tangent here. Let's see. Jets have given up 30 plus per game since they left London.
It's worse than that.
Yeah, I think he means like 30
I have
or
the numbers in
30
front
or
of me,
more. Yeah, go ahead though. We'll hear you.
Yeah, so I took some notes down. I was kind of like, I don't know, I was just in a state of like, I didn't know what to do after the game. So I just kind of sat down. I was just writing down numbers and stuff. In terms of, I have here 5 losses by 15 plus, but I broke down before the bye and then after the bye defensively. So we're at about 30 points a game before the bye. It was 121 points against in 4 games. But the 5 games since the bye, we're at 43.7 points per game, 175 points in 4 games, 175 points. I mean, like, again, like that's video game numbers that, teams are putting up. It's not often that you see a 54 followed by, 2 45s. I mean, this is ridiculous. And sorry, I'm kind of going off on a little tangent here, but as a part of my writing my numbers down here, I wanted to kind of bring up a question, right? So we know that Jacksonville beat the Bills last week, and whether that was I don't know if you want to call it a trap game or Buffalo just not on their game there. They kind of got beaten physically, but Jacksonville had the same 2-game stretch that we just did. They played Buffalo last week and Indianapolis this week. And we played Indianapolis last week and we played Buffalo this week. And I'm not going to sit here and say I know Jacksonville's roster because I don't, or, did I watch a majority of those games? But, they beat Buffalo 9-6. They did something right. They were physical at the line of scrimmage, and they gave Josh Allen fits, something we didn't do. Trevor Lawrence didn't go out there like Joe Montana, but he must have done something right to win the game, or else he wouldn't have, they wouldn't have won 9-6. And then today, Jacksonville had a chance at the end of that game to potentially win.
Yes.
They were in it for, I want to say 3 quarters. I think it was like 17-0 to start the game, but they crawled back into it. For 3 quarters, they were competitive with Indianapolis. Jonathan Taylor got off to a hot start, but they relatively shut him down for the last 3 quarters of the game. And, for the Jets, it's just something that you're looking at 2 45-point games here. And a team like Jacksonville, who people would think is kind of in that same category, potentially even, maybe even worse than us, or, what we would like to hope anyway. They're competing with the teams that we cannot stay in games with from the jump. And it's just an observation I made. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I think that piece there, it was kind of concerning for me to put that on top of what we saw on the field.
Yeah. Scary stuff. So I'll just respond to this one comment from Eagle Fang. He said, Zach benefit from watching White throw 4 interceptions. I wasn't referring to that. I was referring to the game versus the Bengals and how he utilized the short passing game, but also getting through his reads really quickly. That's kind of what I was referring to. Certainly not today's effort. Zach hopefully watched the film because, again, we didn't really see that from Zach before. We didn't really see him utilizing those check down options a whole lot. I do think Mike White maybe overuses it a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit. So that's the part that I'm referring to. All right. Oh, yeah, we got another Fisher. Exactly. Yeah, we got Rick Fisher. We got Mike Fisher. It's all good. All good in the hood. All right.
The right way.
Because I don't have you fine gentlemen during the week, I'm going to ask you to predict. It's a week ahead. I know it's hard to do. We just watched Buffalo stomp us. So we're hemorrhaging defensively and in our own brains right now. Mike, you're going to go first. Prediction score for the Jets-Dolphins game. Is it in Miami?
I think it's in Miami.
I think it's in Miami.
Okay, so you're up, buddy.
Oh, man. I don't have a lot of optimism for the game. I do think that it'll be a competitive game for us. And I wasn't on the last stream, so I'm not gonna. I don't have to be held to the standard of whether I got the Bills pick, the projection right or not. But I don't see this as a win for us. I think we're going to be having a hard time coming out 45-17 loss.
What was the score?
I'm going to go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you predicted a score. My bad.
No, I was going over. I think we're going to have a hard time coming out of this slump. I don't see them firing on all cylinders next week, with or without Zach. So I'll come back to me on the score, but I'll just say I think my biggest fear is what they use Jalen Waddle for. It's really going to put. I mean, C.J. Mosley can't cover the entire field, so I'm worried about what they do there. I'm just going to throw a score out because this is in my mind. I keep circling around the same score, which is. I'm going 17-7. Miami wins that game.
Wow. Okay. Low scoring. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Chad, you're up.
Yeah, I see it as a 27.
Sorry to interrupt you. It is apparently a home game for us. Go ahead. My apologies.
Yeah, we're playing at the oversized HVAC unit. I see it as a 27-17 kind of game. That being, Dolphins 27-17. I don't see us winning.
There you go. James, what do you feel?
31-17 Dolphins.
17 Dolphins. All right. There you go. 31-17 for James. 27-17. Chad, 17-7. And I've got 30-13. Finns will win the game. How can you possibly right now pick the Jets with the defensive hemorrhaging that's happening? We are bleeding out of our noses, our mouths, our ears, every orifice of our body. We're bleeding right now. It's just personally, you can't sit there with any level of confidence and pick the Jets to win this football game. Grant Root says the Jets are going to smash the Finns 40-13. My prediction is based solely off of not knowing who the Jets are starting at quarterback. Oh, New York Jets, Florida, 34-20. He says the Finns will win. Rick Fisher, 28-10 Finns. I mean, the defensive performance that they put out there against the Ravens has me very, very concerned. And apparently it is Eagle Fang's birthday on this day, so I'm hoping for a win for myself, but also for your birthday. Joe Campione says 20-17. He's predicting a much closer game than most of us. And let's see. Kev Chada says Dolphins 37, Jets 16. And let's see if we got any more. Eagle Fang says we're going to give up 25 plus points at least in that game, and our offense will turn it over too much. And we'll turn, I gotcha. Edward Stewart says 28-17, Miami. All right. That's going to do it for the post-game show. If you guys have not hit the like button, please consider doing that on your way out. I would love to hear from you guys. I know we're all really, really bitter and upset right now, but I would love to hear your takes, good or bad, about the New York Jets. There is no take that I wouldn't be willing to listen to, and I would love to include you guys on that podcast. So call, leave a voicemail. The number is on the screen. Rick Fisher is wondering if we'll score in the first quarter. I'm going to go with a no. I think that we may score some trash time points. That's the kind of game I'm feeling right now. That's the vibe I've got. Grant Ridge says, great show to everyone. I'll give a pass to John's 2 minutes on mute. I appreciate you forgiving me. Yes, every once in a while there's a goof up because technology is technology. What team's worse? That's the question I had. We'll end the show with this. We'll stop after this one. What team is worse than the Jets? Is there a team worse? If we played the Lions, would
Outside
we beat?
of football? Okay.
No. NFL. Would we lose? Would we lose to the Lions if we played them? Neutral ground.
Yes, 100%. I 100% think we lose the Lions.
I think we would. I can't confidently pick a win versus anybody.
Dan Campbell would literally bite our kneecaps off. That would be the game where he would actually do that.
Oh, ay. All right. Any last words, James, you want to share before we go?
No, I hope everyone has a great week, and let's hope next Sunday is maybe a little bit better than this one, or the last 7 or whatever it's been.
Yes, absolutely. Chad, any last words you want to share real quick?
Hang in there, guys. There are better days ahead.
You lion sack of
motivational.
You lion sack. All right, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hope to hear from you in the voicemails. Go Jets. See you guys next time. Word from my daughter. Peace.